you say, Josh? The color page from Adobe. Okay? And what I do is I get their logo from somewhere, and usually people now have some kind of web page, but get their logo and then scan it in and go out to color and build a color scheme based on their logo. But they might want a whole different color scheme. You know, they might have a certain kind of logo and they want to have a whole different color scheme. So what color? What else do you want to have them? What else do you want to ask them? What's another question that you can ask? And this is just basic nuts and bolts information. Yeah, that might be more of what's up here. I'm going to add that up here. That's a really good point with target audience. And we might even say audiences, because they might want to be targeting a couple of them. But yeah, real good point. The contact information. Well, first of all, who is in charge? Because you want to know who to send the bills to or who you're going to be in contact with. So you want email, phone, and you want to ask them, how do you communicate? Now, a lot of people are communicating via email, and that's really convenient, but a lot of people communicate by doing meetings. And a lot of people communicate by phone. So it doesn't hurt to ask them, how do you want me to get in touch with you? How do you want me to get information to you? If they say email, you're in luck. If they say by meetings, you might be taking a trip to New Ulm or St. James every week. And you try to get them on email as soon as you can. More and more people are getting on email, so it's getting a lot better that way. And then, what is a company contact? So this is what's going to be on the web page. So we got colors, maybe a little design, basic contact information, and what do you want your web to do? Another thing that you want to emphasize to the user, you could talk to them briefly, and if you want, use my infamous picture on how the web works, which you did on the first module. And just draw it out on a napkin or a notebook or something, and you basically talk to them about the request out to the server, and then coming back with the response. And most business people don't understand how this process works, this client-server. And you don't have to get any more complicated than this. The one thing that you will have to get into is what DNS, and you're going to have to talk about domain names and hosting. And if you go out and read it, go out to my blog, I have lots of good articles on that. Just do, I think the name of the article is My Piece of the Internet or Your Own Piece of the Internet. So just do a search for domain name and you'll get a couple articles. And you need to be able to tell them how to get a domain name and how to get hosting. And you might make some recommendations, and you learn this in the FTP module. So this is the most technical information, but this is really good to get across to them so they know that what you're going to do is web pages out here on the server that lots of people are going to get to. And they need to understand how you're going to book pages. And they call this the division of labor. What's the client going to do? What's their responsibility? So they need to give you the content. What else do they need to give you? It kind of comes with content.
Images.
The images and graphics. And if there's people in the images, what do you need? Have I talked about this? What you need, if there's Yeah, you need permission, photo release. And that's the client's responsibility. It's not your responsibility. You can recommend stuff. Where are you going to recommend they get images from? iStock Photo. Okay? And I just have my clients, I say go out to iStockPhoto.com, register, which is free, and then pick out what pictures you want. Tell me what the numbers are. And then the client really likes that because then they're making choices. So they're really pleased with that. Oh yeah, there's one other thing that the client's going to have to provide for you.
Color choices? Color choices?
Yeah. I'll add that in there. I'm going to add another one now, since that's not the one I wanted. But yeah, color choices is good. Oh yeah, you guys are thinking of good ones. Domain name and hosting. And this gets into ethical issues. I've had several students in the past where they buy the domain name of their business partner, and that puts them in control. That is not ethical. It's horrible business. The domain name should be purchased by the client. It's the client's asset. And a domain name can be valued up to $5,000 or higher. So most of them go around $1,000. They're paying $17 a year, but if they lose it and have to rebuy it from somebody else, it could be $1,000 up to $5,000. Lots of money. So it's not your job to do the domain name. You can help them register, and what I do is I go to their office, I have them get their credit card out, and then I go through the process with Quality Host Online, and I go out and order it for them and fill out all the information. But it's their credit card, and they're the owners, not me. That's very, very, I can't stress how important that is. And what really brings it up is I had a student last year, he cleaned bar, and he was doing a web, that was his business partner, was the bar he was working for. And he ran out and he got their domain name with their bar name, and he says, I'm always guaranteed to have a job here. Because if he left, he'd take his domain with him. Pretty rotten. Well, when I told this story to the business people last Monday, they said the same thing, that they had tied in with a web design company and got their domain for free, and then when they decided to go with another domain company, their first company said, sorry, you're going to lose your domain, you have to get another domain. So very, very unethical. And so all of a sudden a room of 12, 16 people says, oh, I'm not going to deal with that web design company anymore. So how the page is going to lay out, what they want on the menu items, and how it's all going to fit together. So the layout. Now you might have to help them with this, but they're going to decide what's going to be on the menu items, and they're going to decide which pages are going to link where. It all comes back to the content. So these 5 things are what the client's going to come up with. What are you going to do? And Benjamin, I'm going to come back to you because you brought this suggestion up earlier, saying that the client would do it, but really you need to do it, and that's
the layout.
The layout, yeah. So you can do layout suggestions. Again, offer the suggestions to the user or the client, and then they feel in control because they're making decisions. Try to. All right, what else are you going to do?
Cost? Would you do cost?
Cost?
Yeah, or would...
Yeah, you could. That's good. You could outline what the expenses are, and what would be some of those expenses. The domain name, right? The hosting cost. What would be another cost? Maintenance. And the initial cost, if you're doing it for, you might do it as a service, or you might charge something initial. It's okay to do a swap. And Chad is doing a swap. So that's a really good way to do it, as a swap. So that's something expensive. What else are you going to do? Why are you in this class? You're going to do the XHTML and the CSS and the JavaScript. One of the biggest things that happens with a client over and over and over and over again, it's just real consistent, is they don't get the content, they don't have the content ready. So what are you going to do as the web programmer designer? Thanks. Lorem ipsum. And I really don't know what that means. Oh, the other piece that you're responsible for is SEO. But you also want to help them with their SEO. And the SEO being search engine optimization. So you need to tell them about keywords and about using the words in the H. So you're going to do the H1 and the title and their keywords. So you're going to make sure those are in there and the meta tags. Specifically the description. So up here, they're going to have to figure out their keywords. And finally, what else do you have to be responsible for? You're responsible for the FTP. Now, make sure that they have the user ID passwords, and they're responsible for that, but you're going to do all the FTP. You're going to do all the publishing. These are what you really don't offer at this time. Now, as you expand, you'll be getting into this stuff. You'll probably specialize. But does anybody in here know how to do Flash? You don't want to do Flash. No Flash. It's also very, very bad for SEO. Another thing that you want to tell them that you're not ready to do yet is e-commerce or selling product. And I would recommend that they look at Amazon.com stores. Amazon has set this up so you can make it look like part of your web page. You click to Amazon and you have your own storefront, and they handle all the financial transactions, so the credit cards and all that. And that's where your security really comes in that Warren talked about. If you were in web programming, you could do content management system. And that's where they can edit they can bring up their pages and they can edit certain text boxes and add their own content. So user adds content. Now, you're not ready for that yet, but you will at the end of web programming. So when you finish web programming, you'll be able to add this to your checklist. And what I teach in there is a thing called Drupal, which is a web framework. It's a framework that's already built up. You might want to look this up because it doesn't need a lot of programming. And you install Drupal, and you have this framework that lets people log in. They lets them do their own blog. They can share files. They can rate other people's blog entries. You can do photos. People can upload photos. There's like 1,000 modules that come with Drupal. And you can customize your website, and you don't have to program any of it. You just bring in all these modules. It's totally free, and it has a huge user community. So people are writing these modules all the time to help each other. It's a very, very cool product. And I teach that in web programming, the very tail end. Can anybody think of anything else that a business might see that they would want? At the end of this class, will you be able to embed YouTube videos? Chad is shaking his head, yeah. Yeah, because we're going to go into multimedia, and I'll show you how to embed a YouTube video. So videos we can add on this list. And it's going to be embedded videos. We don't want to have the videos on our server. We're going to have them on YouTube server or Flip TV or somebody else. We don't want to put these huge files on our servers because it takes too much space. Another thing, if they're in Savvy, you might find somebody that will ask for web applications. And a web application that you've seen is like Color. What's another one that I've seen? GigTide that my son wrote. That's in Flex. Oh, Sumo Paint. Did I show that all to you?
Not yet.
Whoa, look at Sumo Paint when you get a chance.
That's really fun.
Yeah, those are all Flex, and Flex is going to be very popular. So it's another programming language that you'll learn later. And what you do is you write code, and then it creates a Flash movie. And so like the Color application that I showed you, that's really a Flash movie is what it is, believe it or not. So that's a Flash application. So, and that takes a lot more sophisticated programming. But you can add that a little bit later. Well, that about covers it.